Hi, I'm Ron, and this is my damn show. Let's get into it. Okay, the video I'm about to show you. I want you to pay close attention of this hateful piece of crap, Steven Crowder. 80% of everything he's going to say is actual projection. And this is what the right does, all the time. Everything he says that he blames on Democrats, the right is actually doing. And he's actually doing it throughout this whole episode. Watch.
Just clarification.
People may take some clips and tell you that Steven Crowder is irresponsible. He advocated violence. That's right. I am. I want to be crystal clear about that. I am advocating for lawful violence defensively that has been abandoned for years, and I want it to replace where grace was afforded before.
In a moment, we'll be joined by Joe Walsh to debate these issues, but first I'm joined by Steven Crowder for what will hopefully be a clarification on his clarification. Steven, welcome back to Uncensored. As you know, a lot of people believed you were advocating for a violent response. You've clarified that now. And people are saying, is that a sincere clarification or have you just calmed down?
It wasn't a clarification. It was a repeat. And I stand by it. I am advocating for lawful, maybe let me clarify, ruthless violence in defense of us and our own. And if you give me 1.5 minutes, I can make it extra crystal clear if we need to. What you're seeing with Charlie Kirk is what got through. Charlie Kirk lived under a cloud just as I have. It's the reason that I stopped doing Change My Minds, where there were 12 felonious assaults, attempts at battery, and attempts on my life. And I know quite a few, and many I don't, of Charlie Kirk. I want to be clear. I want those on the left to speak freely and to be able to host their events with minimal security as they do now for the rest of their lives. Just as surely, I want them to be deathly terrified of showing up and acting with the increasing violence as they have at our events. And that goes both ways. Hey, if there's a spat of right-wing violence that's spreading across this country, treat those people the same way that we treat yours. But you won't find it. And let me just address a couple of things here. What I think leads to violence, they'll try and blame it on Donald Trump. They'll give us a bunch of reasons. Let me be really clear here. Joe Walsh will say that this is an overreaction. He said that yesterday. He doesn't understand why this is a big deal. That's untrue. He will say that statistically more violence comes from the right. That's provably untrue. He has been stating for days that the shooter was in fact not a leftist and we didn't know. That's provably untrue. He will create a false equivalency between Charlie Kirk and the murder of the Hortmans in Minnesota. That's provably untrue. And finally, he will place blame, as the left and the spineless right does, for all of this on Donald Trump, conservatives, rising figures, and the rhetoric for temperatures in this country. That is provably untrue. Donald Trump ran on Law and Order and won because of leftist violence. All of this, let me finish with this. All of this is by design so that the left and spineless right can make this conversation about conservatives responding to the cold-blooded terroristic assassination and gleeful celebration thereafter of a young man who did nothing more than sit down at a table and allow anyone to speak their opinion. And I know what it's like because I was in that spot. I started it, and Charlie cited it as inspiration. If I could change one thing, and I do believe that I'm partially responsible for this, I've failed people. I've had to do a lot of soul searching. When I did Change My Mind and started in 2016, the idea was, hey, calling the left on their bluff, civil dialogue with anyone to the tune of billions of plays and hundreds of hours. And it got increasingly violent. And what I didn't tell people, I told people out there, go do this on your own campus, have these conversations. I advocated for it. And Charlie took it to another level. He was unbelievable at it. What I didn't do, I didn't tell people about the threats because I didn't want copycats. I didn't tell them about terrorists from Yemen through Sweden showing up in East Grand Rapids. I didn't tell them about concrete milkshakes. I didn't tell them about my tires getting slashed, about people trying to firebomb my car. And maybe if I would have picked up the phone, maybe if I would have used this megaphone to tell people it's real life out there and the left wants you dead, maybe Charlie would have had a fighting chance. Maybe I could have done more. Right now, I'll tell you this. I see a lot of people out there, Piers. See a lot of people out there talking about picking up that microphone. And I hope people do, because the alternative is silence. But I want people to know that wherever that microphone is, and whoever thinks about picking it up, you are in the crosshairs. People say bring down the temperature. Okay, how about we bring down the temperature to doing something like, I don't know, sitting down at a table and allowing anyone with a thought or opinion to discuss it rationally? Would that bring down the temperature? Because they took his life anyway.
Listen, I know you knew Charlie Kirk well. I feel your passion. I feel your anger. I feel your hurt. It's a painful time. I think everybody on the conservative right in America, it's a very painful time. And I feel that. But in the interest of fair play, which Charlie Kirk would want, we have got the former Republican congressman and the host of The Social Contract, Joe Walsh, joining the debate. Exactly what Charlie would encourage, I think, which is, Joe, you've just heard a very impassioned statement there from Stephen Crowder. What's your response?
Oh, I get it, and I feel it, and I appreciate Stephen Crowder expressing how he feels. I really do, and I don't know what my fight is. I don't have a fight with Stephen Crowder. Stephen, good to see you. There was a lot you said about me there in the intro. I don't remember because I'm getting older. I wish I'd written down some of it. I did my best for the past week because I knew Charlie as well, not to say that this guy was a right wing. He came from a God-fearing gun Utah family. He was definitely right, like some on the left did. I didn't know who he was until we had the facts and the evidence. And it's clear, Piers and Stephen, that this was a...
I had the facts and the evidence, and I told you he was on the left from the bullet engravings that we received from a leak, and you said we were wrong, and people on the left said we were wrong, and that matters because the shooter was still out there, and so was the Kirk family. I'm trying to save lives.
Stephen,
you gonna save lives, Joe?
Maybe some people did. I don't know when I ever said you were wrong anywhere. When
you
this
said
first time I've talked to you, or even
we don't know. We know he's from a white family in Utah, and you retweeted people, and you went out and said this guy is not a left-wing extremist. He is. Okay, go ahead. You did say that,
my friend. From the moment Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I said we don't know who did it, and once we found out who did it, we don't know why he did it. So let's all wait to figure out why he did it.
But we did
yesterday. Let me, Stephen.
And I remember you saying that he sold his soul to Trump before the body was cold, and criticizing his wife.
Stephen, let me finish, brother, please.
I'm going to jump in here real quick, then I'll get you back to the video. Well, Joe, he can't let you finish. The right can never let you actually finish, because they don't actually want the facts to ever get out. Yeah, Stephen's just getting started being dishonest. Watch the rest of the video. But what always annoys me and gets me is that, no, we don't know. We really don't know yet. We obviously can't trust anything from Cash Patel's and Donald Trump's FBI. This FBI has been totally politicized. And like the shooting yesterday, all of a sudden these shooters are going around printing on their bullets, right on their bullets who they are and who they hate. That's very suspicious that this would happen. Two suspicious shootings in a row. Do you not think? And we can't trust anything that comes out of this FBI. Until I hear it from this guy's mouth, I'm not trusting this FBI or the Trump administration on anything. Okay, I'll finish the rest of it. Let's get you back to the video.
Before the body was cold and criticizing his wife.
Stephen, let me finish, brother, please. And then we find out in no uncertain terms, by the way, Piers, which I think all of us could have guessed, this was a political assassination. This 22-year-old young man hated Charlie Kirk, and so he picked up that gun and he shot him. Clearly, and as you've said, Piers, it's clear that of late he had become radicalized with leftist ideology. There, now we know it. This will go down in history as an act of left-wing political violence. Yes.
I mean, I would say, Stephen, that is an honest statement there from Joe. But
it's not.
Yeah, but is it honest on your side, Stephen? Be honest. Is it honest to say there is no problem with violence on the political right? Because there has been historically a lot of violence associated with the far right in America. That, again, is just a demonstrable fact. To pretend there's never been any is to be disingenuous,
demonstrable fact by what? No, it's not to be disingenuous. It's absolutely correct. And I understand, because I've seen Joe and people of his ilk retweeting these out there. It either comes from Cato Institute or it comes from a recent Economist article. I can tell you how all of those numbers are wrong. Remember the man in Portland? Remember Aaron Danielson, who was shot dead point blank by an Antifa member? Michael Reinhold, who said, we got a Trump supporter, bang, bang, dead. That wasn't listed as political violence. Look at that chart. The year 2020, the summer of love, no political violence from the left. I could go through the methodology, and I have brilliant researchers who have. It is demonstrably untrue. No one is saying there is no violence on the right. What I am saying is that people on the right have to have armed security, flak jackets, an entire strategy when they go out, and those on the left don't. That is verifiably true. What is dishonest is to say we didn't know. You know what else wouldn't have been included in these crime stats? And anyone want to make this argument? You're talking to the wrong guy. The Covenant High School shooting. Audrey Hale. Cato said we included it because it was borderline, even though the police said they didn't think it was politically motivated. If not for the undercover journalism unit of a comedy show right here, no one would have known that motivation. We found it, we leaked it, we processed it, we verified it, and we were met with resistance and threats of lawsuits from the local police department, the mayor, and the FBI. They said it was a lie on the outset, just like they said the engravings on the bullet casings were a lie on the outset. The left lies. They label you fascist. They label you a totalitarian. And how do you deal with those people? Well, you don't do it at the ballot box. We all know that. The position that the right holds has been presented as violence, including silence, by the way. I know there's a poster behind Joe Walsh right next to his No Kings poster. In other words, if you're pro-life, it's violence against women. If you're against men and women's sports, it's violence against trans, it's genocide, it's erasing them. If you're against Juneteenth as a holiday, it's violence. You're pro-First Amendment, violence because you're inciting violence. You're pro-Second Amendment, violence because you believe people should be able to commit gun violence. And then if we remain silent, that's also violence. And so people deal with the right with violence. Here's my challenge. Find me one example of a Charlie Kirk on the left, not an elected official. I'll allow any speaker, any comedian this century, one example of somebody who was murdered, assassinated, hemorrhaged out in front of his family in cold blood and gleefully celebrated thereafter. And the polls show that a majority, according to YouGov recently, of Democrats think it's somewhat too acceptable. 38%, 77% of Republicans said not acceptable at all.
Okay, let Joe respond.
What I'm saying is that Charlie Kirk was hunted. He was hunted. We are being hunted, and I don't want to see any more dead friends. Violence, absolutely. Lawful, ruthless, defensive violence.
Okay, Joe.
Piers, I'll just be brief again. The data is pretty clear, and historically it's been pretty clear that there's political violence on the right and the left in this country for years. And I could argue, and I would argue, but I won't here, that there's historically been more political violence coming from the right. But suffice to say, I think you and I, Piers, would agree, there's a history of, hey, Stephen, let me finish, man, please.
Please argue it. You can't just make a vague claim and not substantiate it.
Pierce, you and I would agree, for the sake of this conversation, that political violence is in fact a both sides problem. Stephen, you would acknowledge, I think, that there is political violence and there has been political violence on the right as well. So why don't we all just condemn it all? That's what we all should do.
Yeah,
Steve?
no, I don't. I don't agree with the premise. And I'm having to agree with a nebulous premise because you presented no facts. The very source that you cite, and by the way, I'll make all of mine publicly available. Hold on, I'm finishing now. Let's do it like grown-ups. You can cite your sources online. George Floyd riots, not included. Darrell Brooks, Waukesha,
question.
Not included. Antifa, not included. Man shot dead for voting Trump, not included. Those numbers are not to be trusted, and neither is someone parroting it. I'll answer your question if you answer one of mine after. Go ahead, please.
Melissa Hortman, the Democratic state legislator in Minnesota, 3 months ago, gunned down by an anti-abortion Trump supporter. Yes or no?
Wrong. How do I know? Because Vance Bolter, the man who did it, wrote in his letter that it had nothing to do with Trump or being pro-life. He blamed Tim Walz. And here's what you also don't see. Did you see anyone at the Hortman's funerals or vigils spitting on them? Or pantomiming, being shot in the neck? Did you see anyone celebrating the death of them gleefully?
Yes.
Did you see so many professors doing so, showing children a snuff? Really? Point me to one.
Yes.
Point me to one person spitting at their vigil. Let me guess, you're going to go to Mike Lee? How do I predict everything you say all the time? How?
Donald Trump.
He didn't mock the attack.
But
Yes,
I would.
he did.
Okay,
Donald Trump.
let me jump in.
Anyone spit at the
Stephen,
vigil.
let me jump
Anyone
in.
celebrate the
Stephen,
murder.
let me give you an example.
Pierce, I don't.
Hang on.
Go ahead, Pierce.
Hang on. I would give an example
above it.
where the right behaved very badly, and that was over the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. I saw the gleeful responses after that from the right, the memes, the mockery, and so on. I thought that was very distasteful. Would you agree, Stephen?
If you want to argue an equivalency between a man getting
I'm not
hit with a
asking
hammer in his
equivalency.
underwear
I'm not saying
and a
equivalent.
man bleeding out in front of his child,
I'm not
go
saying
ahead.
they're equivocal. I'm just saying it's an example where I felt people on the right showed a complete lack of humanity towards the man who'd been attacked because he happened to be married to Nancy Pelosi, a political opponent. And so it's not like this never. It's not like this has never happened.
I don't agree. I don't think it's even remotely proportional. Let me ask a question here. This is why I'm giving this message, and this is why I hope people listen and protect their own. Joe Walsh, you're there. Since I answered your question, you're there, Utah, in the crowd. It's not a Mouser. It's not a 30-06. But it's a man winding up a milkshake for Charlie Kirk. We don't know if it's strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, acid, or concrete. Do you stop him? Do you hurt him? That hesitation tells me that you are not amongst us. And cowards are dangerous to have in their ranks.
Stephen,
because it's not a hypothetical, it's happened.
Let me answer your question.
Do you stop him? Do you hurt him?
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. I honestly, I don't.
Someone winding up a milkshake to launch at Charlie Kirk. You don't know if it's strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, acid, or concrete. You see him before anyone else does. Do you stop him and hurt him?
Yes. I certainly stop him. I do all I can to stop him. Yes.
Good. There's a start. That's what I'm advocating. Every single person out there, because we have been living with this shadow over us. And I know, look, here's the thing too, Joe. I understand your rhetoric. I understand where you're coming from. And I know that you met Charlie when he was 16, as I understand it, right? He was very, very young. And I understand that maybe you were somewhat of a mentor figure. It's because of the failure of Republicans like you that me and Charlie Kirk exist, who are willing to take back the territory that has been conceded, and we are willing to pay with our lives. We shouldn't have to be. Academia, media, the press, big tech shouldn't be dominated by the left exclusively all the time. Charlie Kirk shouldn't be out there alone, sitting in that chair, taking on all comers. He shouldn't be inspired by people like me, who are comedians. He should have been inspired by people like you. Instead, he was inspired to go the other way. Maybe that's why he said he sold his soul for Donald Trump before the body was cold. Still want to do the no true Scotsman holier than thou thing?
And Stephen, I'm assuming you would do the same, correct? If somebody were throwing a chocolate milkshake at a left-wing speaker, correct?
No, the reason I bring it up is because we didn't. We didn't,
but
and I've had them launched at me.
Would you, Stephen?
And the reason,
would you?
No, I didn't.
Would you?
And now I would. Now
would
I would.
You?
Because now I would. Yes. Have I answered your question? Yes. Now I would, and I advocate that everybody else do the same by any means necessary.
So Stephen, common ground. You and I, two Americans, would both stop any politically violent attack on any public figure or speaker that we saw. You and I agree to that. And you and I hope, would both agree that we should condemn all political violence. End of story.
I am condemning, of course, all political violence. It is coming from one side, and the prescription is ruthless, aggressive, defensive, lawful violence on anyone who tries. If someone behaves in a way, for example, I've been sucker punched, I've been collar dragged, I've had attempts on my life, I have been doxxed. If anyone behaves in a way where if they behave that way at a town hall, at a restaurant, you with your family, would result in their severe ass beating, they deserve it at a political rally. They deserve it at a private function and a public speaking engagement. And the right has not been doing that because we've been taking the high road and the left has acted with impunity. That's why you see professors. It's not just that they're showing children a snuff film on repeat in order to create a generation of psychopaths, by the way. That's how you do it. It's that so many professors are doing it because they don't fear any ramifications. You can't find that on the right. Find me one example of a Charlie Kirk, not an elected official, a person who did nothing more than express his opinion and allow anyone else to do the same, who lost his life.
I also think in relation to that I saw Charlie Kirk's producer today getting quite emotional as he talked about the difference, for example, between the reaction to the murder of George Floyd, which I thought was despicable, and the murder of Charlie Kirk, which was despicable, is that one precipitated nationwide rioting and lawlessness as people were so enraged they took to the streets, and the other took to people going to church. You know,
also
and
call me when Charlie Kirk died with a speedball. He mugged a woman with his toddler in the house.
I thought it was an interesting.
George Floyd hurt people.
I thought it was an interesting observation, Joe, in terms of the difference.
And I appreciate that, Piers. Let me sneak in one more thing before Stephen goes off. Also, the assassination of Democratic Melissa Hortman in Minnesota by an anti-abortion Trump supporter, you didn't see violence after that. And the other thing you did not see after a, let me finish, Stephen, let me finish, brother.
The man who blamed Tim Walz, truth matters. Dishonesty foments violence, Joe.
After a Democrat was assassinated in Minnesota, you also did not see the Democratic Party and the left declaring a war on the right, saying that they did it, the evildoers did it. This is a battle between good and evil. You didn't hear any of that when a Democrat was assassinated. We should condemn both, Pierce, condemn anybody celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder. Condemn it. And we should also condemn anyone using Charlie Kirk's murder to declare some war on half of the country. And this is a battle between good and evil. Both of those reactions are dangerous and despicable.
Final word to Stephen. Steve.
The numbers are out there, people. 75%, at least 75%. All political violence comes from the right. These are government studies. The DOJ has taken them down now, of course, under these corrupt people at the Trump administration. But you don't have to go far to know this. And this didn't start in 2016 when Trump first came. This started back in like the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, whenever Rush Limbaugh first came. That's when all this right-wing hate really started. Right now, turn your radio on and go to AM radio. 60% of that, 60% is going to be right-wing talk. 80% of the time, they're going to be saying something negative about somebody on the left. Just do it right now. I dare you. I challenge you. You know that's true. Nothing but projection was coming out of Steven Crowder's mouth. Nothing but projection. Gaslighting and projection. Their own God King, who, once again, is a horrible silhouette for any kind of God King. Horrible silhouette. But he hasn't once brought down the temperature. He's done nothing but hype it up. Very irresponsible. The worst example for any leader of a major country. Pathetic. They are so dishonest. So dishonest. They've done nothing but the last 30 years, not the last 8 or 10, the last 30, 40 years, but hype up this stuff. That's all right-wing talk is. Always pushing something negative on the left. And what's worse in that is most of the time it's totally dishonest. It's not even true. Once again, we can go back to QAnon and all this crazy stuff. They're nothing but crazy conspiracies. The stuff they pull it straight out their ass. And they compare that to the left calling them out for the words that actually come out their mouth. You can just go watch the videos. The left doesn't need to do any work for people to dislike people on the right. All you have to do is go watch Steven Crowder's video. Watch him right there. Go watch some of Charlie Kirk's videos. Go listen to Glenn Beck. The left doesn't have to do anything. Anyone with a reasonable mind, listen to these videos. Like when I first started watching this stuff back when I was younger. I was hearing about Rush Limbaugh. Well, listen to one of the shows. Anyone with a reasonable mind who's not a hateful right-wing rube instantly would have seen that, oh God, this man's nothing but a hateful bigot. He's spouting a bunch of nonsense. Nothing but right-wing propaganda. You watch Fox News, anyone with half a mind would have instantly seen that, okay, 60% of everything that's coming out of here is just bull crap and negativeness against the left. Anyone, who doesn't want to believe, doesn't want to be hateful and believe this right-wing propaganda, you're not already thinking that way, and you're being reasonable. You're going to say, okay, this Newsmax, Fox News, all these right-wing talk stations, these people are just spreading hateful propaganda. That's where this comes from, people. That's where it comes from. Do not be fooled by these people. This false narratives that they're given. You can't trust anything that comes out of this administration. Nothing. We see who they are. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. That's all I got for this episode. Thanks for watching.